Hello everybody and welcome. Welcome to Planetarian episode 3 with your most sensual host, Vinover. Let's get started, shall we? Just let me load this file. No worries about this black screen. Yes, I would love to load. I had been polishing the array of innumerable lenses for hours, assailed all the while by the robot's irritating chatter. It was at this time that I noticed a large hole, a large fleshy hole, entirely bereft of lenses on the other side of the fixed star ball that I was currently working on. Two long cords, seemingly disconnected from whichever ports they were supposed to be plugged into, hung listlessly from the edge of that hole. It was not that difficult to guess what was originally supposed to be installed there. You said that this contraption projects the view of the stars using light bulbs. Yes, that is correct. It is said that ancient Greek scholar Archimedes invented the first planetarium. Enough with the history lesson. I want to know about the light bulbs used in this machine. Yes, sir. Miss Gina's fixed star projectors utilize 1,000-watt incandescent light bulbs. Of course, in this day and age of LED backlights and diode bulbs, older filament-style bulbs became that much more difficult to find. Look, those difficult-to-find light bulbs of yours are nowhere to be found, you stupid robot. That wasn't me. That was him. Sir? She cocked her head slightly, and along with the faint hum of the micromotor, she inspected the projector from top to bottom. You are correct. The light bulbs for the fixed star balls of the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere are not installed. She said it calmly, as if she had known about it from the very beginning. How were you planning on projecting anything if you did not have any light bulbs? The same question had occurred to me as well, but when I asked Mitch's manager about it, he merely said that it was nothing to worry about, that it was just a modification on the specifications of the projector. That is not true though, is it now? She's so sad. She was silent for a few seconds as if trying to grasp the reality of the situation, and then she smiled gently. Yes, you are absolutely correct. I have updated my databases to that effect. It was hard for me not to think that she was the one who really needed repairing, not the projector. Do you have backup light bulbs? Yes, we have 4 of them left in stock. It was extremely doubtful that light bulbs had been in storage for over 30 years would still be operational. I would have to test them before putting them in. Put them in so slow and so good. With a sigh, I wiped the grease off my hands with a rag. What kind of grease are you talking about, man? That's gross. Very well, then. Where are the light bulbs? Are they somewhere in this pile of junk? Yes, right over there. She made it as if to point a finger, and then for some reason halted in mid-motion. She smoothly turned her head to look at me, with not a single variation in the motion of her neck. What's that supposed to mean? Aww. Mr. Customer, I'm sorry to bother you, but in 3 minutes it will be 12 a.m., and as per protocol, I will switch into sleep mode. No! She's gonna go into sleep mode? What happens now? The way she said it made it sound like a sincere apology, and yet her tone was completely implaceable. Jesus, this closet, I'm telling you, and this chair I'm sitting on is destroying my ass. Without waiting for me to reply, she briskly alighted from the projector pedestal, and then, in one fluid motion, she bent her hips, pulled down one of the chairs in the front row, and settled into it as if to say it was a very special seat. The half-repaired machine, its 2 spheres hanging on either side, loomed directly in front of her. Activation out of sleep mode will occur at 9 a.m. Good night until then. Oh, I thought she was going to sleep for like 8 years again. And she simply closed her eyes. Hey, wait. It was not as if she could have heard me anyway. It had not even taken a second for her to fall asleep. fucked up that sentence. To be more accurate, that was not sleep at all. It was just that she, who had stopped her every last movement, had totally changed the atmosphere of the place. A life-size doll, lovely in its exacting precision, totally bereft of the rising and lowering chest or the trembling eyelashes of a sleeping human. The smile that had floated to her lips just before she had gone into sleep mode remained pasted there. Damn! Just how many times had I cursed in this one day? I dropped the tools to the ground. As a sharp metallic ringing noise died away, the only thing that was left was this feeling of stupidity so overwhelming that I had to burst into laughter. I'm crazy. I looked up at the giant projector. That machine of the fallen world with its countless lenses was presiding over the solemn silence, not unlike the 100-eyed Argus of legend. The antics of that robot who slipped like the dead at the very heart of the sarcophagus city. These old worn parts and tools which seemed to eagerly wait the resurrection of the people to whom they once belonged. I bent over and retrieved a screwdriver, and then I returned to the prison of Greece. After all, the early bird caught the worm. I had no choice but to console myself thus. Ew, dude, don't console yourself in front of the cute robot. What if she wakes up? Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Rain? I thought I heard someone cry out. But even when I opened my eyes, I could not see a thing. Still lying flat, I moved my arms and fingers and sluggishly fumbled at the airtight buckle. I ignored the shrill integrity breach alert as if it were a sound out of a harmless dream and tore off my mud-encrusted face mask. Is he having a dream again? The raw air, unchecked now by any filters, rushed into my dry throat. I gulped down the breath as if every one would be my last, and then I surveyed the tableau that had been painted before my very eyes. The first thing I saw was rain. The film of light rain rose like a curtain of smoke, obscuring my field of vision with its vagueness. It seemed as if I was on top of a small hill. There was no sign of any human life. The adults had all disappeared during the time I was dozing. Oh, it's when he's a kid again. I already knew that there was a defect in my hazmat suit. That was why I was deserted. Oh, damn, that's fucked. During this march, I had with my own eyes seen several people simply sit in the rubble and then cease to move altogether, as if they had become giant dolls. Okay. If I'm not commenting too much, it's because I'm into this story. It's interesting. But I was too tired to despair. The only thing I could feel was relief over the fact that I would not have to walk any longer. Jesus, that's depressing. The wind resounded through an atmosphere now bereft of grass or trees. Clouds as filmy as oil paper enveloped my entire field of vision like some kind of burial shroud. I stared emptily up at the sky, my cheeks smeared with the warmth of mud. So yet another colony was being burned to the ground. The light shining through the low clouds, clad in thick orange radiance. It was coming from the place that adults had kept insisting was just a little further away. The very place at which they had promised that pure drinkable water, edible foods, beds, and new friends of the same age as us were waiting. I gazed at it like a machine without any particular feeling at all. Well, that is some dark, depressing things to have to worry about. Mr. Customer. But this is a very good thing to wake up to, a pretty little robot. Good morning, Mr. Customer. Were you trying to wake me? Yes, sir. I was dreaming. Oh, how wonderful. Okay, she's not a man. Oh, how wonderful. Was it a good dream? No. As I'm a robot, I'm incapable of dreaming, but how shall I put it? I have very much longed to. Most dreams are not worth longing after. Is that so? A pair of childlike eyes continued to gaze at me. As I woke up, I cleared some of the cobwebs from my mind, taking stock of the situation around me. At this rate, it would probably not be long before I held conversations with this robot as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It should be natural. You should talk to her. Oh, speaking of which, Mr. Customer, how are you doing? If you are still not feeling so well. Look, I said this yesterday as well. I'm not sick. Acknowledge. Please excuse me. Aw, stop being so mean. She replied almost grudgingly, as if she wanted to treat me as a patient no matter what. As I started to rise from my chair, once again I realized that there was something very strange sitting on my lap. The bouquet! No? Oh. It looked almost like a gigantic drop of water. One end of the thing was a glass sphere about as large as a child's head, and in the middle of which was entrapped taut antenna-like wire, and the other end tapered into a large bore screw threads. There were 4 of these glass spheres in total, and they had been carefully lined up before me. I picked up the one on my lap and stared at it. The surface of the glass was cold as ice, and the entire thing was very light. I then gingerly put the fragile thing on the floor, taking care not to break it. You care about the planetarium and the robot. So, are these the light bulbs? Yes, I got them up while you slept, Mr. Customer. Where did you find them? They are stored in a locked cabinet underneath that console over there, as there have been many cases where it became necessary to switch out bulbs in the middle of a projection. There was a black desk not unlike a church organ against the back wall. This, then, was probably the operations console for the projector. On it was an arrayed bank of exaggeratedly large switches, like those seen on a child's toy. They were probably expressly built this way for the easy operation in the darkness. Mr. Customer, may I ask a question? What? I know you have just gotten up, but may I inquire as to the status of repairs on Miss Gina? There is still a very long way to go. Its status is unchanged from last night. I see. She quietly knit her brows, looking very despondent. In that case, I will announce that projections have been suspended for the day. Sure. At my response, she did an abrupt about-face like a weather vane, and then left the projection room. I've seen that in a couple VNs now, and I don't really know what that means. Now then, I picked up a light bulb, held it at arm's length, and inspected it. Are we gonna see it? Oh, no. Repairing the projector was going to be much harder than I had originally thought. To use a simile, the machine was like a precision watch that had been blown out of proportion. It had to have been a century old at the very least. How? I don't know the timeline of this story. It's confusing. The exterior had been built without any regard for ease or efficiency of maintenance, and the core had been engineered with such precision that it was nauseating. Indeed, even an expert engineer would have had a hard time even replacing individual parts of the apparatus. Its purpose was to take the magnificent rotation of the stars, hold them within a sphere roughly 20 meters in diameter, and reproduce them flawlessly. It stood there as if to say it was interested in no business other than that. Unfortunately, the time for fine craftsmanship and philosophy had vanished from this earth over 30 years ago. Once I removed the shell that housed the power unit, a terrible spectacle unfolded. The areas uncoated by grease had gone deep red with rust, the bearings were fused, and the lead sheet was crumbling away. Okay, I think the whole story, he's going to be going out to find parts to fix this, but I'm not sure. There was no way I was going to be able to jury-rig this one. Its plight was so desperate that nothing short of winch suspension and total overhaul would help it. I had tested out every last part in this heap of junk to see if it might be of use, but as it stood, I was going to be unable to repair more than a few of the auxiliary projectors. On the other hand, there was another machine that was operating more perfectly than I would have liked. Are you talking about Planetarian? What do you think about the Planetarium? That beautiful twinkling of eternity that will never fade, no matter when. As I came to the reception area, canteen in hand, I heard her repeating her signature phrase to the raindrops. Such unfortunate weather today, right, Mr. Customer? When she realized that I was there, she started speaking to me with her usual good cheer. It appeared that the topic of the weather was universal. Smog talk, both humans and robots then. I destroyed that sentence. Sorry about that. Yes, that goes for today, yesterday, and all the days before that. Yes, we seem to be having lots of rain this fall. It would be nice if it would clear up soon. I suppose so. Well then, Mr. Customer, is there something you require of me? I just came to get some water. I laid my canteen on the ground, affixed my water purifier to its mouth, and then set it to catch water dripping down from the roof. She looked on at my every little action, and the transparent raindrops flowing into my canteen as if she were seeing alchemy happen before her very eyes. The very eyes. Mr. Customer, what will that rainwater be used for? I will drink it. I am different from you. If I do not have any water, then I cannot live. She cocked her head doubtfully at my words, and then seemed to be ruminating about something. If you would like, I could prepare a beverage for you. A beverage? I involuntarily echoed her words. I would have had to be more careful in the future, as she had already demonstrated that my capability to say things. I would have to be more careful in the future, as she had completely demonstrated the capability to say things that completely were beyond my capability to anticipate or comprehend. She's just throwing shit at him left and right. He doesn't know what to do about it. Yes, to tell the truth, brewing tea is one of my specialties. Today's quite chilly though, so how about a cup of nice hot coffee? I could just imagine her pouring dirty water into a non-existent teacup and bringing it to me with an ear-splitting smile on her face. The doctor instructed me to never drink any water that I did not draw myself. Acknowledge, I have memorized this important piece of data about you, Mr. Customer. The flippant response that I had reeled off was received with deadly seriousness. Even now, I could not figure out her paradigm of operation. Do you have any alcohol? Bottled distilled liquor with unbroken seals. Perfectly preserved cigarettes are fine as well. Those are things that are very important to me. I asked these things of her, allowing myself a sliver of hope. Yes, we have those things. Oh yeah, it's about to turn into a party. She immediately broke into a smile so gentle that even the angels would covet it. Really? Where? I need my cigs. Floor B1 of this department store has several... Okay, that's a girl. Floor B1 of this department store has several places where a high-grade liquor is sold. Enough, I understand. I stopped her before she could offer to go down to those now submerged liquor store shops to confirm that they still had what I wanted in stock. I sighed, and as I expelled the air in my lungs out into the atmosphere, I could feel almost all the strength in my body going with it. Thought we were gonna get crunk. I plucked out one of my forelocks instead. There was nothing to be done about it, so there was no point in getting angry. It's not her fault. Don't get mad at her. I love Planetarian. She's the best. Mr. Customer, are you not feeling well? It is something like a chronic disease. Do not worry about it. Yes, acknowledged. In that case, Mr. Customer, may I inquire about Miss Gina and her current state of repairs? Who knows? Even I cannot say. Is that to say that at present you do not know when the repairs will be over? Yes, that is right. Is that so? The canteen was finally full, and so I screwed the cover back on. Do you plan on standing here forever? Yes, After all, I must be present to render an apology about the suspension of projections when customers come this way. You are going to rust. Please do not worry about that. My enclosure has 2 layers of waterproof coating, and so such a small amount of rain does not provide any hindrance to operation. Is that so? I did not know how good her waterproofing was, but what was true was that in the department store of Chatter Generation, she was first class. And if she made her noise here, then that meant that projection room would be left in relative peace. I'm going back to work. Very well. Please take care of Miss Gina. She made a profound gesture of gratitude. And after that, she turned around to face the rain once more. What do you think about the Planetarian? That beautiful twinkling of eternity that will never fade, no matter when. I'm growing on that saying. It does not matter even if you try to attracting customers, as the projector is still in disrepair. No, this is practice. One never knows when a customer might appear, so I must be present to greet him properly. Is that so? See you later. As I waved my hand over my shoulder, her voice once again rang out amidst the rain. All the stars in all the sky are waiting for you. What do you think about the Planetarian? The stench of rust and sulfur wafted from the water. It was not the fault of the water purifier. No, the thing that was broken was the atmosphere of this little planet itself. That's so sad. Even if one could somehow extract rain directly from a rain cloud, the water that resulted would not be pure at all. If one dug for thousands of meters underground, one might strike upon a still untainted groundwater artery. But that was not a prize that a junker could put his hands on, and it was not worth its volume in alcohol anyway. As I thought these things, I unsealed my final MRE. Oh no, he's gonna run out of food. The hardtack biscuit had no flavor to it at all. If I stayed here any longer, I would die. I washed down the biscuit that had become powder in my mouth with the water from my canteen. I had seen death countless times, and I had also imagined what my own death would be like. A stream of blood cutting its way through the filthy mud, violet steam rising from a thigh burned by a flamethrower mine, the intolerable stench of so many blisters, the feeling of bones shattering underfoot like so much fragile china, the sound of water drumming on the stock of an assault rifle stabbed through the burial mound, the weight of wet soil being shoveled down on an artificial flower that a mother had fashioned out of precious scraps of cloth. Good God, this is a depressing place. Surely this, too, was the way that my life would be erased, in an instant if I was lucky, in several days of unbearable agony if I was not. The rain was the constant companion of death. Death thus had no jurisdiction of its own. The rain that did not cease would never allow such a thing. Yet now, the specter of my death was under a dry roof. It was there in the junk heap of parts, simple and artless as a child's doll, suffusing everything in the room. If I were just to raise a hand, I could partake in it at any time. I still had a hard time believing that this was really happening. As I removed the screws of the projector, one by one, it became increasingly difficult to remember where I was. It was almost as if I were disassembling my very own spirit right then and there. Time began to flow as vaguely as mist, and the world shrank to the narrowing confines of this projection room. As I polished them, the precision lenses regained their frozen radiance, one by one. Was the rain even falling outside right now? I could not even say that with confidence anymore. Dozens of hours ago, I was struggling to breathe in the midst of the rain. I had daubed my cheeks with mud in order to evade the thermal scans of the Messenjägers. I could not recall anymore what I was afraid of at that time. In this sarcophagus city filled only with death. I was in the embrace of a broken machine and the subsystems under its rule. Like the fisherman of the old world legend who had been swallowed by a giant fish, and who made the best of it by fishing inside the belly of the beast, I immersed myself in this work. Man, this is a really interesting story. Thank you for your work today, Mr. Customer. Were there any customers? No, there was only one today, and that would be you. I see. But I am confident that there will be very many customers tomorrow, so you can turn them away. Thank you for coming. Now leave. The projector's not working. And the evening was completely under her demesne. Why are those letters so close together? And most recently, 2 of the latest 905 series have been assigned to the help desk at the main entrance. Her soft voice resounded in the projection room as if to soak it with light. He says the sweetest things. In my current position, I could not see where she was. She was probably gazing away intently at my back as I worked up on the stepladder. They are both FT models, so they stand some 11 centimeters taller than me, and look much more adult than I do. Their faceplates are custom made, and are quite detailed. Not content with explaining just herself, she had launched into a soliloquy about the functionalities of all her relatives with pride. Oh, and the 905 models are able to shed tears. Tears? Yes, tears. Now the 905 units at our department store are purposed for reception of the public, so that functionality has been disabled in their software, but is an established functionality first introduced in the predecessor models of the 9000 series. To be more detailed, such functionality is absolutely critical for the life-sized, mass-produced companion robot market. Oh, the companion robot market. They need to cry. Certainly that is important, or something. As I wound the leads around the terminals of the motor, I continued to try my way out of the conversation. Mr. Customer, may I ask you a question? What? What does it feel like to shed tears? Who knows? I cannot recall when I last cried. I understand that tears are things that involuntarily flow in times of sorrow and pain, but... That is about right. Is that so? Her voice trailed off at the end. Probably she was cocking her head doubtfully again. I do not know how to put this, but I would very much like to be able to shed tears. As I am a popular edition model, I do not have that functionality. It is not such a good thing anyway. Is that really so? Yes, it is. Her own duties finished, she refused to leave to be more accurate, her friend, the projector's side. Her talkativeness was the same as ever. By this point, I had grown accustomed to it. I had learned that the aggregate amount of conversation could be drastically shortened if I simply gave some response to every important conversational point rather than ignoring her. It was the same way that one might play a companion to an old man who had grown fond of talking. Mr. Customer, should we not be affixing the light bulbs for the fixed star balls soon? The fixed star balls soon? We are not quite ready for that yet. Just wait a bit longer. Is that so? As a consequence of the restoration of electrical current in the machine, I had learned that of the 4 bulbs, only 2 were still functional. Those 2 bulbs would have to suffice for the projection. In other words, spares for them did not exist anywhere on this world. Now that the electricity to the projector had been restored, if during these repairs I touch a tool to the wrong place and cause a short, that would be the end of both of the repair and me. Because I knew this, I was putting on the finishing touches only very slowly. Move the latitude axis upward, little by little. Do it slowly. Yes, sir. Please evacuate from the radius of revolution for your safety. She replied with an earnest and professional tone. I got down onto the ground and leaned on the projector pedestal that the stepladder stood against. The manual console turned out not to be necessary in the operation of the projector at all. A thick communication cable stretched forth from the electrical operations panel, located at the base of the machine's scaffolding. What? As she pulled on it, it wriggled on the floor, and after it coiled upon itself twice, it was interlaced with a connector located in her left ear. In other words, she and the projector were now connected by wire. Rather than being bizarre, it felt more like some kind of ritual lost to time. According to her, this was an emergency measure that I am ashamed to have to resort to, or something. As if to show off her embarrassment, her long information ribbon flashed through sequences of highly exaggerated warning colors. While ordinarily she would be able to control the projector using RF signaling just as she did with the air conditioning and the lighting, the projector's wireless receiver was completely broken and beyond my ability to repair. I am clear. Go ahead. Affirmative. Your safety has been confirmed. Moving the projector now. The old-style motor began to buzz like a horsefly on the verge of death. At the same time, the bearings creaked and the projector itself moved slightly. And that is the end of this episode. Maybe we will see if it works completely, and maybe we will see a pretty starry display with the asshole junker and cute robot girl. Thanks for joining me on this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.